Tips with Toni. Tips with Toni. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Toni. Tips with Toni. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Toni. Woo.
Welcome to the Tips with Toni podcast. I'm Toni Marinucci and I'm your registered dietitian. You may have heard me on the Gym Wits podcast. I actually have Justin here with me today.
Hey guys, hope everyone's doing well.
Yeah, so Justin's actually going to ask me questions about myself, and this is just a way to introduce myself to you all and so that you can learn about what this podcast is going to be about. I'm super excited to have my own show, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Hey Toni, so what is your official title?
My official title is a registered dietitian. Mm-hmm. I also do have my master's degree in nutrition and dietetics. So if you looked at my name, it would be Toni Marinucci, MS, RDN, registered dietitian nutritionist with a master's in nutrition and dietetics. So what that basically means is I went to school I did my undergraduate in dietetics for 4 years. I went to SUNY College Oneonta. It's upstate New York in America. I know some people listen to this podcast that are out of the United States, which is pretty cool. So it's a great college. I graduated from there, and then I applied to their dietetic internship, and I did my master's degree online and then traveled home and did my internship at a bunch of different hospitals and nursing homes and outpatient clinics and got all my hours and basically with those hours I was able to sit for the registered dietitian exam while getting my master's degree at the same time online.
Sounds like you put in a lot of work.
I did. And then I sat for the exam and I passed, luckily. And then...
Oh, that wasn't luck.
Yeah, I studied really hard for it. And then I was able to practice. And so that's where my credentials stand from that process.
Wonderful. And so why did you get into this?
I actually struggled with my weight as a child. I was very overweight, but I was also super athletic, and I played sports, and my skills were there. But when it got to the point where I was a freshman in high school, and it was all about getting onto the varsity team, and I just wanted to be able to get to that level, and my skills once again were there, but physically I could barely run a mile, and I really contributed that to my weight. So I started changing my eating habits, started little things like adding more vegetables, drinking more water, having less sweets, like very, very small changes. But I started to notice the really big impacts that it had on my life. And I then realized also in conjunction with that, my energy was better, my mood was better, my self-esteem was better, my confidence was better. And so I went to my guidance counselor, I'll never forget, in the 11th grade, and I was like, okay, I want to teach people how to eat. I don't know what I'm doing, but I like what I'm doing. So how can I turn this into a profession? She's like, oh, you want to be a dietitian. So that's how my journey began. I had that focus, and I only looked at schools that had the dietetics major, and then just blew up from there.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So now, what do you love about being a dietitian?
I love, and I don't mean to sound like, I don't know how this is going to come off, but I genuinely love saving lives.
Oh,
and
you sound so holier than thou.
I don't really, but I really do enjoy people coming to me and telling me and that they experience the same, very similar experience that I had. They have more energy, they're more productive, they are having better relationships with their families, and and their health is better. They're off their medication, their weight is down, they just feel more free, and it's just so rewarding to know that I played a role in their lifestyle choices and their lifestyle.
Oh, that's sounds like a very nice thing to love about it, for sure. So now, what is this podcast about? There's certainly a lot of nutrition, health, wellness podcasts out there. So what is sort of the idea behind Tips with Toni?
This Tips with Toni, I actually started blogging in college with the idea in mind that there was so much misinformation out there and so many people that didn't have any sort of credential or things behind their name to support the advice they were giving. And they were just giving out this advice that had nothing behind it and just letting people, kind of setting them up for failure. And instead of getting frustrated and yelling about how bad they are and terrible they are and they shouldn't be doing that, I decided to create a blog to be that reliable resource, that credible resource that people could go to. And since my junior year in college, so it's like 7 years later or so, I have built up a bigger following. And I have these people that trust me and have seen me grow, and they know they can come to me for that information. They know that they can come to me for the truth. Because anything I'm going to recommend is going to be based off of science and studies and evidence that supports it. And they know that by coming to me. So I want this podcast to be if someone's looking for a reliable resource and they want to consolidate that information and then they want quick tips, it's really hard. There's a lot of information out there. Information.
Some of it isn't even all wrong. Just how do you sift through everything? Exactly. And how do you know what's applicable to you?
Yeah.
You know?
So this podcast, honestly, I feel like the longest might be like 8 minutes. It's really just going to be like quick segments of specific topics. I'm going to try to give you as much information I can about a topic and really break it down so you understand if this is something you should apply to your lifestyle or not.
Well, I think we're all wondering right now about what these tips are. And so what do you have for the day? What's Toni's tip of the day?
All right. So my tip of the day is making healthy swaps. So an example of that might be, say your favorite dish is macaroni and cheese. Now, a macaroni and cheese is usually traditionally made with white pasta, which is simple carbohydrates, not very little nutritional value, and full fat cheese, which usually has saturated fat. Some processed cheeses, if it's like, from a box, it's going to have trans fat in there. So it's usually not the best option. So what you could do is, swapping your pasta, basically, instead of using white pasta, you can do like a bean-based pasta, like something that's made with either like chickpea flour or lentil flour or a whole grain flour, like a whole wheat pasta, and swap that there. Use low-fat dairy and low-fat cheese, or even non-fat Greek yogurt to give it that creamy texture. And believe it or not, when you do all that, it will still taste just like your regular mac and cheese, and you wouldn't even know. But those little swaps actually can help you enjoy the food that you love, but not, contribute to poor health. It can keep you healthy at the same time.
I have a swap that I like to do. It's I guess you can call it a swap. See, I love French toast. Right? So I was always wondering, how can I do the French toast where it doesn't kill any diet or anything. Of course, you probably don't want to be eating too much French toast if you're trying to lose weight, but it all depends on the person. I just love French toast. So what I like to do is combine sweeteners. I get a really good, after making the French toast, always really good challah French toast. Got to do challah French toast, right? What I like to do is I don't get the cheap stuff. I get the best maple syrup, and I get a dab of confectioner's sugar. For something about the combination between the two, I use a little bit of maple syrup and a little bit of confectioner's sugar. Somehow the combination of the two makes it plenty sweet, but I don't use a ton of it. I don't douse it in the cheap maple syrup. I use a touch of confectioner's sugar. So that's basically what I do. You're basically swapping out the ton of syrup for a dab of good maple syrup, and a dab of confectioner's sugar.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's what I do. Sometimes what I'll also do is I'll put cinnamon in the egg wash and maybe a touch of sugar in the egg wash as well. So it really gets infused in the French toast. So you're using far less sugar, but it's nice and sweet, and you don't have to douse it.
Yeah, so
that's my
yes,
swap.
so that's a great swap, and more to come on that, because we could do an entire episode of breakfast swaps, right? Or condiment swaps, or beverage swaps, or lunch I mean, they can go on and on and on. So that's really how I try and help a lot of my clients, is so that they can enjoy the traditional dishes that they're having, but just having it in a better and healthier way.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's really it. This podcast, this introduction was just to get you to know about what the future shows are going to be about. So don't miss them. Tune in.
Yeah, definitely. Tune in. A lot of great information.
Yeah.
I know I'll be listening to all of them.
And listen to the Gym Wits, because they're great. So they talk all about fitness. I talk about nutrition. Sometimes we come together, and that truly is the combination of a healthy lifestyle that's really going to set you up to be the most successful, is that combination. So check us both out when you can.
Where can we find you, Toni?
So you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at tips_with_Toni with an I, or tipswithtoni.com.
Fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to checking them out.
I'm excited to share them with you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I'm Toni Marinucci, your registered dietitian. This is the Tips with Toni podcast, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.
Tip with Toni.